Dobar dan. That means good day in Croatian, I suppose I should say. What is it? Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. The name of the show is The Bogdanich Perspective. I'm your host, Paul Bogdanich. We're on TalkCast PDX, which is talkcastpdx.com. Episode 43, I'm going to call it Changes Everything. So the proper title is Changes Everything. What I mean is this changes everything. And I've just been reading the press, open the newspaper, stuff like that, and just COVID this and COVID that, and, this happened, blame it on COVID. This happened. Oh, this is how COVID affected, just, everything that I read and see. So we're going to call it Changes Everything. I'm just going to go back to my speaking limitations. Can't really say, what I think. This is being broadcast over YouTube, among other channels, and the content streamers, YouTube, Facebook, etc., have what they would call, discourse controls or rules. And I have to abide by those because I'm on TalkCast PDX, and there's a ton of shows on TalkCast PDX, but it's the TalkCast PDX network. You have your lifestyle shows. This is Oregon, right? So you have your marijuana shows, the old Stonies, take it from the experts. And then you got cooking shows and all the rest of it. And I'm the only show where you got some idiot running his mouth that's got a probability of getting us suspended, so I have to moderate my speech, but for whatever reason, I talked about this last week. They want to control the narrative flow on some very specific items. So fine. It's top down in that they set rules, and then it's also bottom up. I'd like to emphasize the bottom up portion. I mentioned last week how basketball, just the sport of basketball, selects for taller people with great eye-body coordination. Golf and baseball, eye-hand coordination, football, strength, speed, power, and so each profession has a type of individual that they favor, and it's no different in journalism, and so you get a lot of, because of the character of the people that they hire that would fit within the culture of the organization, as they say, you have self-censorship from the bottom. And I think the self-censorship from the bottom is starting to equal, what you're getting from the top. And it's odd. A couple of examples of little things that I can or cannot say. Rochelle Walensky, and she's the CDC director. CDC is Center for Disease Control. Went on cable news network, which is CNN, over the weekend sometime, I think. I only saw the interview. I didn't see it live or anything. And she said, and I quote, "Our vaccines are working exceptionally well. They are continuing to work well with regard to severe illness and death. But what they can't do anymore is," stop the quote, because if I finish her quote for her, if I just reiterate how she finished that sentence, that would possibly violate the top-down guidance. So I can't finish her quote for her. She did a briefing, same woman, Rochelle Walensky, and this was just for a CDC briefing, and she said, quote, "The overwhelming number of COVID deaths, over 75%, occurred in people who," and you can't, in a venue like this, finish the quote without possibly running afoul of the communications guidelines, as they say. I've looked at them. The written version, where they post the guidelines and they tell you what you can and cannot say. What's prohibited is anything that would increase or accelerate or something like that vaccine hesitancy. You can't say anything that would promote vaccine hesitancy, and that's the written standard. The unwritten standard, in my opinion, is they have certain keywords that they use, and in my opinions, the keywords are vaccine and safe and effective. And so you can't say anything that goes against definitions of either of those two terms. Completely safe, completely effective vaccine. But there are some things. Pfizer, when they came out with the vaccine for the EUA, they had to do studies, and there's 450,000 pages of supporting documents that they submitted to the FDA to get the emergency use approval on the vaccine. This is back in 2020, of course, and it's 2022, so 2 years. But they submitted 450,000 pages of documents, and they wanted to release them to the public at the rate of 500 pages per month, which would have meant that the total document release would have taken 75 years. And somebody who wanted to read them quicker than that sued, and they went to court. And like I said, it takes about 2 years, right, to get through the court. But the judge ruled last week, and he said, and this is a quote from his ruling, accordingly, having considered the parties' arguments, filings in support, and the applicable law, the court orders that, number one, the FDA shall produce 12,000 pages on or before January 31st, 2022. Number two, the FDA shall produce the remaining documents at a rate of 55,000 pages every 30 days. And that's the end of the quote from the judge's ruling. So instead of 75 years, the judge ruled that you have to release all 450,000 pages of documents over, call it, the next 8 or 9 months. So very interesting. In a related note, the CEO of Pfizer came out in a call to investors, analysts, and so on, and said that Pfizer is going to have a new Omicron vaccine by March of 2022. And I find that curious. I remember that Omicron was first identified and rolled out to the public the day after Thanksgiving when it was discovered in South Africa. But Thanksgiving was, I think, November 24th, end of November sometime. But so that means, end of November, end of December, end of January, end of February, end of March, 4 months. So from announcement to vaccine is 4 months. I assume that they think they're going to have an approval for that other than just have a vaccine in research, but you never know. But 4 months, that's quick. Also on the legal front, the Supreme Court of the United States heard arguments on the vaccine mandates last Friday, which would have been January 7th, and we're currently awaiting a decision. You have all kinds of people trying to read the tea leaves. They could rule broadly. They could rule narrowly. There's two issues, payments, mandates for people through Medicare payments, and then mandates through OSHA. So there's two separate legal issues. They could combine the legal issues. They could rule on them separately. There's a number of things that they have a full variety of options before them. Don't know how they're going to rule. Some of the oral arguments were interesting. One of the justices in oral arguments said that, well, Medicare is paying the bill, so why shouldn't they have the right to, mandate whatever they want? Well, where does Medicare get the money to pay the bill? If you still receive a paycheck, have a look. There's a little item called MEDI. All right, which is a Medicare tax on every dollar earned by everybody. So you pay the money, you give it to the government, but the government gives it to the hospitals. And because the government gives it to the hospitals, it's her opinion that you have no say, even though you're the source of the money. So, I find that, but a lot of things could happen. Hard to say. I don't know. But COVID's changing everything, I'm telling you. I just read the papers, and everything I read, it says that it's affected by COVID this and COVID that. And Justin, if you could please put up graph number 1. One of the things that it apparently had a severe impact on was last week's jobs report, or last month's jobs report. This report was released the 7th of January, but it's concerning the month of December. 199, the headline numbers were 199,000 jobs created, the unemployment rate from 4.2 to 3.9%. Average weekly hours were unchanged at 34.7 hours, but average weekly pay increased to $31.31. Now, this is interesting because on last month's job report, they said that average hourly earnings were $31.03. But in between that report and this report, they revised that number up to $31.12 for the month of November. So for the month of December, on the preliminary report, they're saying that wages went up another 19 cents an hour from $31.12 to $31.31. But the point of the matter is that wages are increasing. As you can see from looking at things here, to fill the chart, it was a slow month. 199,000 is a terrible print. There's just no, way to say it kindly. I mean, it's really bad. It's not good. It takes 200,000 jobs a month just to keep up with population growth. So the only way you have that paucity of jobs and then a huge decrease in the unemployment rate is if there's a large number of people, in the millions or over a million, I should say, that take themselves out of the labor force. And you have to wonder why that is. A number of them might have been unemployable for violation of some employer requirement, or maybe they're just making so much money trading cryptocurrency that they're going to the beach, in the Caribbean. I don't know, but over a million, a huge number of people. And then there's a list of the jobs created. Food and drinking places, 42,600. Merchandise. This is clubs and supercenters. So Target and Costco and Walmart and your large regionals in our area, that would be Fred Meyer, people like that. But your large club stores and supercenters hired 15,000 positions. Non-residential trade contractors, glazers, people that work on high rises, 12,900. Individual and family services, 12,800, and that would just be individual and family services. Heavy construction, 10,400. Computer systems guys, 10,200, and accommodation, which is hotel and resort workers, 10,000, and that's it. For job gains above 10,000. And then you can see all the job gains above 5,000. I don't know what to tell you here. Machinery manufacturing, 7,700. Support activities for transportation, 7,400. Performing arts and spectator sports, 7,000. Air transportation, 5,800. So on. The red numbers over there are job losses. All right. Hospitals lost 55,100 jobs, and they're reducing capacity, deferring elective surgeries, and so on for lack of staff, and they lost employees. So nursing care facilities, same thing, lost 5,200 jobs. Education or gambling, amusement, gambling, and recreation lost 6,600. Clothing and accessory stores, and this was for December, mind you. This report lost 8,000 positions, and sporting, hobby, book, and music stores lost 12,500 positions. Justin, if you could take that one down, please. So in between those two categories, that's 20,500 jobs out of clothing and accessory stores, sporting, hobby, book, and music stores during the month of December, Christmas. So they shed 20,000 jobs nationwide over Christmas. Very interesting. But, COVID changing everything. It's affecting everything. I mean, military readiness. I was reading the news. It's affecting military readiness. This is according to the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation. Okay. But Norwegian soldiers were told to take good care of their underwear, bras, and socks and return them upon leaving the armed forces so that they could be washed and reused for new recruits. A communications manager for the Armed Forces Logistics Organization, guy by the name of Hans Meissenget, I think is how you say that, said that they simply don't have enough underwear in stock, though he insisted that the reused garments are being washed, cleaned, and checked before they are given to the next recruit. When asked to comment, he said, "What we distribute is in good condition, and a pair of used underwear or socks is better than nothing at all." So it's affecting military readiness, telling you, just affecting everything. I read Lufthansa, European airline, they to keep your landing and gate rights at airports in Europe, you have to use them. You have to fly in and so on. So they're going to have to fly over the course of 2022 here, 18,000 ghost flights. In other words, a pilot, a co-pilot, one crew member for the cabin, no passengers, no baggage, a little bit of freight maybe, but they have to fly 18,000 just ghost flights to keep their takeoff and landing rights at these airports. And, that's all because of COVID, and COVID's changing everything. It's just phenomenal. If we could look at graph number 2, please. This is an interesting little news item. Number 2 here, and this is, the gentleman on the screen should be Lawrence Nathaniel Brooks. He was the oldest World War II veteran in the United States and believed to be the oldest man in the United States, and he died last Wednesday at the age of 112 years old. He was born on September 12th, 1909, was known for his good-natured sense of humor, positivity, and kindness. When asked for his secret to a long life, he said, quote, and he must have been asked this a lot, but I think this was on his 109th birthday that he said this, serving God and being nice to people. I don't have no hard feelings toward nobody. I just want everything to be lovely, to come out right. I want people to have fun, enjoy themselves, be happy and not sad, unquote. He was one of 15 children. He has five children, 5 stepchildren, dozens of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. You can take the graph down, Justin. He lost his wife, Leona, shortly after Hurricane Katrina when he was 109. Katrina destroyed his home. Oh, he was in his late 90s, excuse me. Katrina destroyed his home when he was in his late 90s, and he and his wife were picked up by helicopter from the roof of their house. After Katrina, they rode out the storm, and they were evacuated by helicopter from the roof house, and she died shortly after that. One of his daughters, when asked to describe him, said that he was, quote unquote, resilient. Pretty good life, 112 years old, He danced. He got up and sang and danced on his 112th birthday. But oldest man in the United States. But like I said, COVID's changing everything. Industries. Rolls-Royce CEO, guy by the name of Torsten Müller. Interesting name for a Rolls-Royce CEO. But anyway, said that sales on Rolls-Royce vehicles increased 5,586 vehicles in 2021, which was up 49% from 2020. And they asked the guy why, and he said, COVID, it's affecting everything. I'm telling you, it's changing everything. And when asked to elaborate, he said, quote, many people witnessed people in their community dying from COVID, and that made them think, life can be short and you'd better live now rather than postpone until a later date. That helped Rolls-Royce, end quote. That's what he said. And so it's just changing everything, Can't open the paper or listen to anything without seeing how it's changing anything. It's earnings season. For the quarter ended December 31st, earnings season starts next week, I think, with the financials. Going to change a number of things there. We know that he also said that the trend in luxury cars was across the board. So we know that the earnings of luxury car makers are going to be up. The analysts, of course, have also, know the same thing. So their estimates are way up. We know from the pre-announcements and press conferences of the life insurers that on whole life, group life, and term life policies that they're going to be paying more money than was anticipated for claims. And that's going to be problematic in the insurance industry. Some of those people report first with the financials, and then the rest report starting, call it the first week in March. So you're going to see that. Could be a good trade. Depending on how the Supreme Court rules. The Supreme Court decision is very important. But, if deaths go up like that, they're going to look for legal ways to recoup their premiums and they would have to show causality for the increased payments from some place or another. And that might be possible depending on how the Supreme Court rules. But if that happens, I would expect that the politics and everything, given what they are, is that instead of them proceeding with those lawsuits, what would happen is they would be treated like, say, Lufthansa Airlines, and be reimbursed directly for the government to, take their money and be quiet, and fly a bunch of ghost flights, whatever the case may be. And I would point out, as a theological matter, all this is only possible because of the money printing. If they had to tax people to pay for all this nonsense would have been over a year ago, right? If they would have had to increase all your taxes to pay for all this, but they don't, do they? They just print the money, and that gets us, back to the stock market. So, Justin, if you could please put up number 3, we're going to look at how all this is affecting the stock market, because everything's changing. I'm telling you, you can't read the paper without seeing the change. And this is just our graph from January 2nd, 2018 to March 31st, 2022. I know we've seen it before. I extended it to March 31st, 2022. But roughly in the middle now is the big pandemic drop. And you can see how the market used to trade before the pandemic and how it trades after the pandemic. And after the pandemic, it started to go up in a channel that represented 30% a year. And that's just the Fed action, printing money, right? Makes everything possible. Like I've said on previous shows, it's the only part of the economy that's working really well, changing the composition of the employment force, changing what you order, when you order it, how you get it delivered, causing retail stores in clothing and accessories, sporting, hobby, book and music to fire staff over the Christmas season, and things of that nature. But printing the money, it's the only part of the economy that's working. Nothing else is, right? So they keep doing that. And as you can see, just by looking at this, it fell out of the channel towards September 2nd last year. Justin, if you could take that one down and put the next one up, please. And this is just zooming in on the prior graph, except for this one only goes from December 31st, 2020 to March 31st, 2022. And as you can see, the market was moving up in that 30% channel perfectly from the beginning of the year all the way until September 2nd, when it hit a previous cycle all-time high, and then it fell in between September 2nd and October 4th. And since October 4th of 2021, last year, it's been choppy. It kind of tried to recover the channel, but then it didn't make it, and then it dropped again, then it went up. And this graph is updated as of yesterday. And yesterday it was trading just a smidge below the 50-day moving average. But if you look at it, what appears to be happening is it dropped 5% in between September 2nd and October 4th. But then, based off the lower number, after the 5% decline in between September and over September, call it, it's again moving up in a 30% channel, except for the channel's lower. The bottom of the old channel is the top of the new channel, and I put in a big black line there to estimate where the Fed support is in the new channel. And as you can see, it's where we keep bouncing off the lows. The new channel is 190 points wide compared to 160 points for the old channel. And Justin, if you could take that one down and put up number 5, please. And we're going to zoom in again. And all this is the same graph, except for this is just zooming in again. Only runs from September 30th, 2021 through Monday, January 10th is where the line updates. The chart extends all the way to the end of the first quarter, March 31st. And as you can see, you can see over there on the extreme left edge, the October 4th low. Then it came up, tried to regain the channel. Didn't make it, because when it dropped below the channel, that was the day after Thanksgiving, and when Omicron was announced. 4 months later, we're going to have a vaccine. But that's where it dropped out, and then, had trouble, went down, went up, came back down, went up, almost recovered the channel. The most recent high, series high, was on January 3rd, 4,796 points. Yesterday closed at 4,670 points, but it's still in that channel. just 5% lower, moving up at 30% a year. That's called the pandemic premium. The Fed, you can take that graph down. The Fed has already announced that they're going to do tightening and tapering, but that mostly affects the way that they're injecting money into the bond market, principally buying federal government debt so that the government can spend money without having to tax anybody, so that they can do what they want with no pushback, right? However ill-advised. Doesn't matter. You're not paying for it. We're printing the money. Be quiet. Buy stocks. And that, seems to be the message. But I think that's the game plan, because they've said they're going to tighten and taper for the bond market, but they haven't said anything about reducing, quote unquote, and this is the language they use, the pandemic premium. And the pandemic premium is moving assets up, 30% a year, albeit from a lower level. They let the stock market drop 5% in between September and October. But, off your lower basis from October 4th, they're moving it up 30%. I think that's what they'd like to do. Are they going to be able to do that? Probably. But like I say, I think they're going to have some difficulties, because I think certain sectors are going to need help based on the earnings reports that are going to come out for the full year ended December 31st, 2021, and the fourth quarter of 2021, September 30th to December 31st, 2021. And those earnings reports will start to come out in a week or two. I still think that Supreme Court decision is terribly important. They have all kinds of options. They can consolidate the two cases. They can rule one this way on one, that one on the other. They can consider broader issues. The ruling's very important. I don't know when they're going to come out with it. All these people that read the tea leaves, I think it's based speculation. What's not based speculation is a couple of the justices are just not very bright, but we'll see how the vote goes. Anyway, let's look at our portfolios just for last week. The week ended Friday, which would have been, I guess, the 7th of January. So for that week, market was down 89 points, and you should have lost $1,871. The portfolios lost, top 30 cap weight lost 2,660. The top 30 equal weight lost 1,360. Top 3 every sector lost 935 only. So that one did the best again. My little portfolio with only 9 stocks in it made $700, but then my hedges cost me a ton of money, so I lost $6 net. I'm going to be out of all my stocks on January 22nd here. They're going to call them away. By sector, the market was down, call it 2%, and the sectors that performed worse than the market, it was a split week, as we'll see. Some stocks went up, but other sectors went down. And by sector, consumer discretionary fell 3.61%, healthcare down 3.92%, internet technology down 3.5%, materials down 4.7%, real estate down 8.2%. On the upside, industrials were up 3.8%. Finance, got to have that finance, that money printing and everything, 7.8%. And energy stocks, big winners, up 10 points, 10.4% last week. So that created a divergence in stocks. The ones that moved the market were the ones at the very top and the ones at the very bottom. If we look at our 54, pretty good time today. If we look at our 54, there's 9 stocks that went up more than 5% last week. Right? And these are all large cap stocks, more than 5%. ExxonMobil was your biggest winner, up 12.6%. ConocoPhillips was your second biggest winner, up 11.7%. Bank America Corporation up 10.5%. Kinder Morgan, which is a oil concern, except for they run pipelines instead of produce oil, up 8.9%. Boeing Aircraft up 7%. Berkshire Hathaway, another finance company, up 6.9%. AT&T up 8.8%, 8.9%, call it. Chevron, the other oil company, up 6.5%. JP Morgan, the other bank or one of the other banks, up 5.6%. And those are your 9 companies that went up more than 5% a week. Which, you got to remember the market went down last week, right? 89.17 points, but those 9 stocks, energy and finance sectors, principally, plus AT&T, killed it, went up more than 5%. Verizon Communications went up 4.4%. Philip Morris, got to smoke those cigarettes, went up 4.4%. 2 stocks, Intel and Honeywell, both industrials concerns, went up more than 3, but less than 4%. Only one stock that went up more than 2, but less than 3, and that was MasterCard. 5 stocks that went up more than 1%, but less than 2%, and that would be Disney and UPS and Johnson & Johnson and 3M. And 3 stocks that went up, but less than 1%, and that would be Walmart and Visa and Southern Company, which is a railroad. And then we had 5 stocks that were down, but down less than 1%. Notable names in there are Target and Procter & Gamble and PayPal and Comcast. And then Facebook went down more than 1%, 1.4%, but less than 2%. 5 stocks went down 2%, more than 2%, but less than 3%. And in that group, you had Amazon and Tesla and Lowe's. And then 3 stocks went down more than 3%, but less than 4%. And in that group, you had Apple and Cisco and Abbott Laboratories. And then 6 stocks went down more than 5%, but less than 6%. And this would be Home Depot, Google, and Costco, and Pfizer, and Nike in that group. And then 3 stocks that went down more than 6%, but less than 7%. And in there, you have Microsoft and Broadcom. And then 2 stocks that went down more than 7%, but less than 8%. And that would be NVIDIA and NextEra Energy, which is a utility, but they're a solar company. And then you had a full 7 stocks that went down more than 8%. And in that, we had Sherwin-Williams down 8.2%, United Health down 8.7%, real estate concern Prologis down 8.7%, American Tower, another real estate concern, down 8.9%, Adobe down 9.9%, call it 10%, and Netflix was the big loser, down 10.2% for the week. And so it was segregated in between, what moved the market was the combination of the 6, 9, 11, 18 stocks that fell more than 5% and the 9 stocks that gained more than 5%. Remember, we only cover the very largest stocks, and they have a disproportionate effect on the overall index number because they're the largest stocks. Go back to graph number 4, please, Justin, if you could. So there it is. This is our presumed new channel. 5% lower than the old. The bottom line of the old channel is the top line of the new channel. The big black line in there is the presumed bottom line of the new channel. The volatility, the up and down movements over a short period of time, pretty extreme. Like I say, a lot of good trades. Stocks up and down 5-10% in a week. Just got to time it. There's somewhere in here, there's a trade on these insurance companies. There's for the slow learners, there's going to be a panic when they announce how much money they had to pay on their different life insurance divisions. And then it's going to become clear that they're going to get reimbursed, shall we call it. And when that happens, their stocks will recover. So you got a good trade going on there. In the end, a lot of it, like I say, what happened, the Supreme Court decision, you can take that down. The Supreme Court decision is going to be important. So it's on an expedited schedule this week or next, I figure. A lot of people try and read the tea leaves. I think it's all speculation. I don't know what the justices are going to do, but we'll see. And that's about it. 35 minutes. This was the Bogdanich perspective. Tuesdays, always Tuesdays for me. TalkCast PDX. Me and my guarded conversation, if you will. On TalkCast PDX on Tuesday. Thank you for joining, and join us next Tuesday on TalkCast PDX. The Bogdanich Perspective going live Tuesdays at 10 o'clock Pacific, but anytime you want to watch it. And do widzenia. That means goodbye.